recorded and made available for later viewing. So if you're here as a parent for your student hoping to share some information, this webinar will be available for them later, as well as all of our summer webinars that we'll be hosting. With that being said, I'd like to thank you all for being here to take a look at what New Student Orientation has in store for you, what the summer has in store for you, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that we might have time for at the end of this session. Right here at the top, I just want to start by saying I'm getting over a little cold, which is why I'm here at my house. So if you see me pause to mute myself, it is just to not have you listen to me cough. And with that being said, I'm going to jump right into it. So this session today is to talk about truly the start of our summer together and what New Student Orientation has in store for you. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Francesca. I also go by Fran. I use she, her pronouns. I myself went to Lewis and Clark College. I graduated not too long ago in 2020, quite a year to graduate from college. During my time at Lewis and Clark, I studied psychology as my major, and I minored in art history. And this is going to be my 8th orientation at the college behind the scenes. My first NSO was obviously as a new student. My second NSO was as an NSO leader, so helping those new students in their time during orientation. And since then, I've either been working as a student director or as the director of orientation. It is a large passion of mine to watch students come to the college and really experience being away from home for the first time, or just acclimating to a new environment and really taking advantage of everything NSO has to offer. I always get asked a lot of questions by students and parents about some of my tips, so I just wanted to put these here for everyone to see. Definitely, as you start this journey of matriculating into the college, this is a great time to take advantage of the resources that are available to you and start making them a habit in your daily life. So using resources like Google Calendar or a planner is definitely something that you'll need to use during college. So using them over the summer will get you kind of in that day-to-day habit of checking those resources, as well as checking your email. When you step into college, you're going to start getting a lot of emails from different offices and different folks at the college. So it's a great habit to just check it daily. And then finally, my last tip for students is, as you start your time here at Lewis and Clark, it's really just to take advantage of the different class options that you have when it comes to course registration. I know how nerve-wracking it can be to sign up for your first college courses. So trying something new that maybe you weren't really expecting on taking can actually result in some of the best class experiences that you have. So that's a little bit about me and some of my tips. But we're going to back up a little bit and actually talk about what New Student Orientation is. So New Student Orientation, also referred to as NSO, that's the acronym you'll hear me saying a lot during this Zoom call, is the first, about the first 5 days or week before classes, in which the campus is free of all returning students. So we really just have our first years and our new transfer students on the campus to engage with the orientation programming, meet their new student peer mentor, who's a current undergrad at the college, and really get settled in both into their new residence hall room if you're living on campus, and just getting a feel of campus. Our campus isn't too large and is very walkable, but it can get really easy to be confused on the location. There's a lot of trees, and so just being able to settle in and explore campus is really helpful. This coming year, NSO 2023 is going to start on Wednesday, August 30th and run through Sunday, September 3rd. So for all you new students out there, mark those days off on your calendar. Orientation is an expected program, and we will expect you to be present throughout all of those days of orientation. And while evening programming isn't usually required, that is when we're hosting a lot of fun social events. So you'll definitely want to be present on campus for those evening periods as well. I just wanted to make a little note right here for any parents and family members who might be joining us right now, that we will be hosting our Parent and Family Preview program on Wednesday, August 30th and Thursday, August 31st. Now, Parent and Family Preview is an optional program for parents and family members to attend. And we find that most parents and family members do want to attend to have that move-in day experience, eat in the dining halls, take a campus tour. And we also do provide a lot of different programming specific to parents and family members to learn about resources for supporting their students and different things like that. So keep that in mind. An email will get sent out in mid-June for RSVPs to Parents and Family Preview. On the days of orientation, we do keep students pretty busy. We have a pretty packed schedule. Wednesday of NSO is always move-in day. Thursday is going to be a heavy academics day in which students will meet up with their academic advisor. Friday is a lot of wellness and campus tours, getting acclimated with those types of resources on campus. And then Saturday and Sunday is when we host our annual service day in partnership with the Center for Social Change. And we also require all of our new students to participate in sexual health and consent training before they start the academic year. But before we get too ahead of ourselves and start talking about late August and orientation, the true purpose of this webinar here is to talk about what today, May 10th through mid-August is going to look like for new students. So we start with the NSO summer checklist. The NSO summer checklist is going to go live on Friday, May 12th. And the checklist is going to contain everything that new students, whether you're an incoming first year or an incoming transfer student, is going to need to do over the summer to make sure that they're ready for class registration, making it to campus, housing applications, everything that you'll need to know. So like I just mentioned, there will be two different checklists for first years versus transfers. They are more or less the same, but for those transfer students coming in, there's a few things that they might not need to do that first years need to do, such as sign up for a first year seminar, words and numbers course, but transfer students might need to provide some additional credits or other information from previous institutions. For the most part, a lot of the NSO task list items are going to be ones that open up immediately on May 12th, such as logging into the system to create your LC account and email. And other items on the checklist will trickle in over the summer. Some of them will happen later in June, July, as well as August, such as course registration, completing certain exams, etc. The checklist itself is going to be available on the NSO website. And in our next slide, I'll be able to show you what that looks like. They're available in both a web page format, so you can click around, as well as a PDF format that you're more than welcome to print off to check off each item as you complete it, if that's something that helps you track completion of the checklist. These are just a little preview of what the PDF versions of the checklist looks like. They're multiple pages long, and in addition to all of the opening dates, they'll include descriptions with links that will guide students to each task list, give a description of what they'll need to do as they complete it, and clue them into some other resources that they might need alongside completing the checklist, such as connecting with a certain college advisor before you start course registration, or if you needed some additional help and resources as you work on, for example, completing some of your math exams and other language exams over the summer. I'm just going to take a moment to navigate over to the NSO website. This again is where the NSO checklist, will be hosted. Our NSO checklist can be found right over here to the side. Now, because it's not May 12th just yet, we don't have it posted, but when it is May 12th, the checklists will become available right here. I also want to take this opportunity to let you know that earlier before this webinar started, I mentioned that all summer webinars, because we host a series of summer webinars, will be recorded and posted to the orientation website. And so on a subpage of the new student checklist is where you'll be able to find the links to all future summer webinars, as well as the links to the recordings of our past webinars for future viewing. Okay, with that being said, I just wanted to take some time to make a few notes about the checklist. I cannot impress this upon students enough, but the most critical thing for you to do is to create your LC account as soon as possible. Once you create your Lewis and Clark College account, that's going to populate your LC email account. And from there, once your LC email account is created, all future emails from the college will be sent to your lclark.edu account. Once that account is established, we will no longer send any emails to whatever personal email account you have on file with the admissions office. From there on out, all contact will go to that at lclark.edu email address. So just keep that in mind and make sure you check that email frequently throughout the summer. Another thing is pretty straightforward, but to make sure you're paying attention to the dates and the deadlines on the checklist. This year, we did build into the checklist a Google Calendar that you can add into your own Clark Google Calendar to see what the checklist deadlines and dates are, the links to these webinars, and everything like that. I always really try and get new students to really work with the Google Suite and take advantage of Google Calendar as something that they kind of build into their daily habits as a college student. So starting to use that over the summer really will make a difference. And then finally, my other note is that if you are having questions about the checklist, you're feeling stuck on completing a task, or just have some clarifying questions that you want answered, you are always welcome to reach out to my office, nso@lclark.edu. Over the summer, I'm not the only person who checks that email account. I have 2 different student workers who are in my office who will be answering that account. So you'll have a actual current student being able to follow up with you and provide any clarity that you might have when it comes to any of the checklist tasks, or connecting you with the right office on campus to make sure that your task is completed on time. Here's some other tips for you. Do not wait until the last minute to complete an item. Although a lot of the checklist items are rather quick, such as submitting your t-shirt size, that will take you 90 seconds max. Other items on the checklist will take you some time to complete, like placement exams. If you know you need to take a math class or a science class next year, and you know you need to take the ALEX exam, do not wait until the last couple of days before the deadline to complete those tasks, especially with those exams where you might be a little bit rusty on those subject matters. It's better to give yourself ample time in case you need to retake an exam. Like I mentioned earlier, you're more than welcome to print out a copy of the front page of the checklist that I showed earlier, in case you're a visual person who likes making a check on certain items. And of course, check your email, not only for those updates or other information from offices, but if for some reason an office needs more information in regards to a checklist item, that would be really helpful for you to know about before the deadline has passed. Just wanted to take some time here to, again, mention summer webinars because they will be mentioned on the NSO summer checklist. We'll be hosting a number of summer webinars this summer, starting with this one today. Our summer webinars are mainly for new students, but parents are welcome to attend. And we will have a number of webinars that will be for both parents and students, such as our Students of Color or our First Gen student webinars. So when the NSO summer checklist launches on Friday, we'll have a full list of those webinars on a subpage that you'll be able to peruse at your leisure and make note of for future attendance. Next up, I wanted to draw your attention to some dates that are not actually part of the new student summer checklist, but relate to this larger summer experience that you'll have as a new student. So sometime in mid-May, once you've started this matriculation process, you'll receive an email from your college advising center advisor. Now, this individual works in the College Advising Center. Their whole job is helping students figure out their four-year plan, their class registration, and answering questions about class registration as well. So you'll definitely want to keep your eyes peeled for that email and get connected with your college advisor. They are all fabulous, and notably, they are different from your faculty advisor. All new students will have two advisors on campus, but that College Advising Center advisor, when they start their outreach over the summer, will really help you prepare for that first round of course registration that will open up August 1. Sometime in late July is when my office and the new student peer mentors will start reaching out to you. As I mentioned before, new student peer mentors are current undergraduates at the campus, and they will not only lead your new student orientation group, but your peer mentor will also stay connected with you throughout the entire fall semester for one-on-one check-ins, as well as NSO group programming throughout the fall. It's always very exciting to receive that new student peer mentor outreach email, and we'll make some Instagram posts and other emails when those peer mentors start their outreach. Finally, mid-August and just August in general is when you'll be packing and preparing for your move to the Hill and living at Lewis and Clark. And we'll definitely be sending out more information in mid-August about orientation, the NSO schedule, coming to campus. We'll have another webinar preparing for your arrival to campus. And that's when a lot of other offices are getting ready for your arrival as well. I just touched upon this in my previous slide, but like I just said, the peer mentors are definitely very excited to reach out to you in late July with your NSO group, the NSO theme, and everything like that. When your new student peer mentor reaches out, it is actually them sending you an email, and I implore you to send them a hello email and reply. Get to know them and really start facilitating that relationship with them, because you'll get to know each other quite well during orientation and the fall semester. Next, I just wanted to take some time to talk about new student trips as well as move-in. This is still a while away as it happens in mid to late August, but without a doubt, these are some of the questions I get asked the most. New student trips, for those who are not aware, happen in August before orientation happens. They are not facilitated by my office. They are facilitated by the Office of College Outdoors. If you have any questions about a college outdoor new student trip, you're welcome to send NSO an email and we'll connect you with their office. It's my understanding that the registration period for new student trips has already come and gone. But if you are a student participating on a new student trip, you'll come to campus either the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th, go on your trip, and when you return to campus on the 29th, that's when you'll be able to move into your residence hall room so you have somewhere to sleep the night of the 29th into the 30th. While most students are moving in on the 29th and the 30th because they're either NST or non-NST participants, we do see some students who come before those days because they're part of a student athlete program or a fall athletics program, excuse me. And so if you are a fall athlete and you know that you're arriving early to campus, your move-in and details surrounding your move-in will come directly from your coach or the person facilitating your athletics training in the fall. For the rest of new students, as well as for parents and family members who are excited for move-in day, the official move-in day is Wednesday, August 30th, and that'll be the day where it's all hands on deck, campus living staff working on move-in, cars everywhere, getting you settled into the residence halls. And with that kind of wraps my overview of what the summer holds. Like I mentioned earlier, there will be a lot of emails coming your way, both from offices who are expecting you to complete checklist tasks. Other offices will start their outreach to get acquainted with you and share information about their offices. We'll be hosting webinars. The checklist is open and available. So there's a lot going on, but we're definitely here to support you and answer any questions that you might have. And so with that, I'm going to take a breath and take some time to answer any questions that you might have. I know that a few have already been submitted in the chat, so let's see what they are. Okay, I have a direct message from someone asking when students will be able to create their LC account, and that will start on Friday, May 12th, when the checklist launches. Students will be able to follow the instructions on the new student checklist to create their Lewis and Clark account, as well as their email account.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my daughter's going to be on a Arctic canoe trip from June 18th to August 6th. So for those items that have deadlines during that time, who should she work with to kind of work around this?
Yeah, that is a great question. We do see a handful of students who have some really awesome summer plans that don't necessarily give them access to the internet. The deadlines that your student will definitely need to pay attention to are course registration deadlines. I would suggest that they follow up with their college advising center advisor to let them know about their trip plans. And that advisor should be able to work with them on figuring out ways that they can pre-register your student for those courses if they don't have access to internet.
Great. Okay. And then one other question. Is there a parent account for tuition payment, or how does that work?
Yeah, so part of the new student summer checklist will include being able to have students grant parent or guardian access to others for the student account portal. So that information will be listed in the checklist.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to answer this one. I have a question in my messages, and then I'll answer your question, Clayton.
Yeah, no worries.
Someone had a question about what the process looks like for new students and selecting roommates, and I'm sure there's a lot of other housing questions surrounding that. So as far as housing goes on campus, students will apply on the housing portal. That will become available for them 24 hours after they have created their Lewis and Clark College account. It's just one of the features of the portal loading in their information. But when students enter into the housing portal to submit their housing application, that's when they'll be able to view other new students and form roommate groups, message each other, connect online, and establish a roommate group for next year's housing. Clayton, if you want to ask your question.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. Thanks. I joined a little bit late, so I probably missed out on a little bit of things, but I was wondering, I don't know if this is like your like department or area, or, but I was wondering, because there's the admitted student tours. When do those stop?
That is a great question. Unfortunately, that would be a question for the admissions
Yes.
team.
Okay. Yeah. All good. No worries.
I'm not too sure. Sorry about that. I see another question here from an international student who has some questions about documentation for visas. So international students will actually participate in international student orientation, which is the Monday and Tuesday before NSO starts on Wednesday. If you have more questions about visa documentation, I suggest you reach out to the International Students and Scholars Office. Brian White in that office would be a great contact to follow up with information or questions that you might have about visas. Unfortunately, my office does not facilitate student visas, so I'm not exactly sure if there's a timeline by which that should be happening. And I see Lisa from ISS is actually here and going to follow up with that student. Thank you, Lisa. I see that someone asked if first years can have cars on campus. So the answer is no. First years are not able to have cars on campus unless there is an exemption or reason why you would need a car on campus. You'd have to go through an exemption process with the Office of Transportation and Parking. Otherwise, new students are not allowed to have cars on campus. I see a question here from someone just wanting to clarify what setting up the LC account is. So setting up the LC account will happen separately from the housing portal. It just takes the housing portal 24 hours after you've established your Lewis and Clark account and email to populate you into the housing portal. So if on Friday you create your LC account, by Saturday, 24 hours after, you should be able to log into the housing portal. If you're having any issues with logging into the housing portal or just any general questions about accessing it, you're welcome to send living@lclark.edu an email. And the Office of Campus Living will also be sending out a welcome email, I believe Monday the 16th, welcoming students to campus. And Campus Living will also be hosting a number of new student housing Q&As over the summer because we know students have a lot of questions when it comes to housing. I have a question here about AP exams and college credits. AP exams can get submitted to the college. There's information on the new student checklist about submitting those scores and information to the college, but we'll also be hosting a transfer student webinar or a transfer credit webinar, my bad, over the summer. And that transfer credit webinar will also discuss more about AP and IB scores and how those transfer over to the college. That transfer credit webinar is not just for transfer students. It's for any student who might be transferring credits over to Lewis and Clark. I have another question here asking what new students who attend an NST do on the first day of move-in. So new student trip participants will get back to campus from their trip on the 29th. So they settle into their residence hall room that evening. On the 30th is when we see the rest of the students move into campus. And throughout the day, we have many different programs happening, such as campus tours, eating in the dining hall. We bring banks to campus. The library is open. There's a lot happening. So new students who are on NSTs are just able to participate in those different events as they choose. But starting at 3 p.m. on Wednesday is when we will host our new student welcome. And that will involve family and friends as well as new students. So definitely make sure that you're around for that. I see another question coming in from a fall athlete who's interested in more information about fall athlete move-in. So fall athletes who will be arriving in mid-August because of their athletic schedule will move right into their residence hall room, and the dining facilities will be open for the students during their practice seasons. How do new students get items for their hiking trips? So for those who are attending a new student trip, the NST and College Outdoor Office has a huge warehouse on the South Campus where the grad school is, and it is just full of all of their items and gear for new student trips, as well as the College Outdoors trips that they host into the school year, both fall and spring semester. So College Outdoors has this whole spiel, like you can show up for your new student trip with nothing but the clothes on you, and they'll be able to fully outfit you with everything that you'll need for a new student trip, all the gear, all the equipment that you could possibly want. Unfortunately for new students who are international students, there is a conflict in the dates of which NSTs and international student orientation happens because of the way visas work for those new students. So international students, if you have questions about your ability to participate in NSTs, I'd connect with Lisa, who's on this call, and she might be able to give you a little bit more information about that. Just bouncing back, there is not a cost for the gear when you're participating in an NST. That's wrapped up into the cost of the trip. I have a different full athlete question who's asking about participation in the 5 days of orientation. That will depend on your fall sport. I've been in contact with the fall coaches, and some of them will be on campus for the days of NSO, and some of those teams will actually be traveling at away games for D3 season. And so for those fall athletes who are not able to make it for NSO because they'll be at away games, NSO is actually partnering with the fall athletics team to make sure that on that Friday, August 18th, you're able to get orientation programming and information that you'll need as a new student because you aren't able to participate in some of that programming during the days of NSO. I'm talking so much, I have to give myself a moment. Someone asked when students will find out about which new student trip they're assigned to. I'm actually not really sure when new student trip assignments are shared out with students. The Office of College Outdoors would be able to let you know. I want to say it might be sometime in June. Do we have other questions from folks?
I have another question, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I think I got confused because I saw this, I thought that one of the slides said the trips were August 22nd through August 24th.
They start on the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th. It depends on which trip.
Okay, but there's not gonna be like a time. I'm just wondering, what do I do? What does he do in between?
No,
they'll be back.
when students
Okay.
come to campus, they'll be on those trips until the 29th. The start date is just slightly different for each trip.
And did you say that if we drop them off and bring their stuff, they can store it somewhere?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the College Outdoors office has a huge secure warehouse on the grad campus that new students can keep their stuff in, securely locked when they're away on their trip. And when they come back, they can get their items out of the warehouse and then they'll move back into their rooms.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
On the spot, may I gotta say something?
What is the percentage of the new students that do go on the new student trips?
That's a great question. I know it's about 300, I want to say it's 325 students, so probably around 40 or 45% of students go on a new student trip.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Everyone, I'm going to pause really quickly. I need to take a sip of water as I'm getting over this cold. Give me one.
Is everybody here doing a new student trip? I'm just curious. Taking a poll, how many people are doing new student trips?
I will let you know, as a new student, I myself did not participate on a new student trip. I was not at a place in my life where I wanted to take an additional week off before the start of the semester. It's really up to students on if they want to attend those new student trips or not. There's definitely advantages to participating, but it is not a disadvantage to not go on those new student trips. I'd really say it's up to the student on, if they're really feeling open and up to taking that extra week or more before orientation starts to participate on those trips.
I so appreciate that perspective just on your own personal, and that it's, it's not a disadvantage, because that is a lot. Like, it felt like a lot to my son to do a week before, with all the new stuff coming, So
I just wanted some time to still be at home with my family, and I knew that orientation was going to be a lot. Orientation is very busy. So yeah, I think if your student's having that feeling that maybe not participating is the way to go, say good on them for listening to themselves.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you to Alyssa for dropping all of these super helpful links. Let's see if I've missed any.
Francesca, I have a question, one other question. When the peer mentor reaches out, you say there's like a group, like they lead, like is when they get reached out, like my son and a group of others will be under this peer mentor?
Exactly, yes. So that new student group will be about 15 to 20 students. Each group is slightly different, and they'll form that orientation group that the peer mentor will lead during NSO and into the fall semester.
Great, cool. Do they have the advantage to meet before, like on Zoom or just the peer mentor?
That will be up to the peer mentor. We don't have them require a Zoom meeting over the summer. Some start some summer group chats and start to text or share Instagrams. So a lot of it is virtual until they're in person in August.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Someone had a question about how accessible the cafeteria is from the residence halls and if it is safe to go there at night. So as someone who lived on campus for 3 years out of my 4 years at Lewis and Clark, I can say that I never felt unsafe on campus at night. As someone who identifies as a woman, just made sure I was cautious of my surroundings, but there's these blue lights on campus where if you ever felt unsafe, you can click the blue light and it would notify campus safety of your location. That being said, I can't say I've heard of anyone using them. As for the location or accessibility from your residence hall to the dining cafeterias, we call it the bone here on campus, it does really depend on where your residence hall is. I will be honest, we do have a lot of stairs on our campus and a lot of hills. And so sometimes that is something that would make that slightly less accessible. If you think you have an accessibility need, I would urge you to start working with the Office of Student Accessibility on an accommodation, and the Office of Campus Living can work on placing you into more accessible campus housing that would either get you closer to the dining hall or be in an area with less or no stairs if that is something you need. Information about the Office of Student Accessibility and accommodations, both for housing or academics, will be listed in the new student summer checklist. I see some other questions coming in about our incoming student numbers. We're expecting around 600 incoming students this year. It might be a little bit more with the transfer number looped in there. As for the weather during the school year, we are located in Portland, Oregon, and it will be rainy. I myself am from Southern California. I was actually really excited about the rain. I'll be really honest, I found the rain enjoyable. I love Portland. I love the rain. What really got me was the sun setting closer to 4:15. So that's why if you're kind of anticipating that November time change, get that blue light or figure out a way in your routine to be outdoors before 4 p.m. so that you can get as much daylight as possible. That to me was the bigger change than the weather. But I would suggest really nice rain shoes.
Yeah.
I was not
Like
prepared.
I said, that's Nana.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I saw that some of your new student trips, 2 of them, the students actually live on campus instead of going outdoor hiking somewhere. How does that work? Like, would they move into their dorm room completely on August 23rd or 24th or something? Or do they have access to a cafeteria while they're living on campus that week? How does that all work?
That is a great question. We have in recent years actually introduced a couple of new student trips that are not the college outdoor trips where students are hiking and backpacking, which would have been far more appealing to me my first year, never having backpacked or anything like that. So yes, we do offer 2 on-campus new student trips. One in particular is a creative arts NST, and the other is a spiritual life new student trip. So for those students who are participating on those, they will move in directly into their fall residence hall assignment. And I believe that they are eating in the dining hall during that new student trip instead of, camping and camp meals like the other new student trips. Someone just wanted to clarify if their student is coming early for a fall sport, if that would prevent them from a new student trip. So again, that really will depend on the fall sport, but it is my understanding that because of D3 regulations, those fall athletes need to make a certain number of practices, and they do conflict with the new student trip timelines. So I don't believe it is possible. If your student has questions, I suggest that they reach out to their athletic coach to verify if their practice and fall schedule will conflict with the new student trips and if they'll be able to participate on those, although I don't believe that they will be. If your student's a spring athlete, though, there should not be a conflict in interest there because spring athletics will start their training a little bit later into the fall semester.
How far away is like a grocery store or a bodega, like if they need to grab some stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very, very close to a local Oregonian grocery store chain called Fred Meyer. They're all over the state of Oregon. They're like a Kroger. That is like a 10-minute drive from campus. It's about 1.5 miles away. And so our Pio Express, it's the school shuttle, goes on a loop to the Fred Meyer. The Fred Meyer also has a pharmacy. So if your student is looking to fill prescriptions, I would recommend that they fill them at the local Fred Meyer for easy pickup. That is also where there's some banks located if they're interested in having access to like ATMs and local banks. They're also on that Pio loop that makes it easy for them to access.
And what part of town is that market in? Like what region or?
Yeah, so Lewis and Clark is located in south/southwest Portland. We're specifically in this like Burlingame area. And so our local Burlingame Fred Meyer is right down the street from us. Someone asked if there is a health center on campus. There is a health center on campus. It is open for students to use. And if you get the student health insurance on campus, that definitely works with the student health center on campus, although they'll see other students who are outside of the school's health insurance on campus. They are able to do a number of things for new students, although the list isn't as extensive as a hospital, for example, but that definitely is open to students and available for them. I'm seeing some questions pop up about the Pio, getting to downtown, and just transportation in general. So here at Lewis and Clark, the Pio Express runs every single day, 7 days a week. There is, or at least this past year, there has been a different route on the weekends compared to the weekdays. The weekdays, the Pio does a loop from campus to the law campus to the Fred Meyer down the street to downtown Portland and back again on this loop. It loops all day. I want to say it ends around 10 or 11 p.m. in the evening. On the weekends, there's a slightly different Pio schedule. The Pio will leave campus, go across the river into southeast Portland, specifically an area called Selwood, as well as a main artery street called Powell. It will then make its way over into downtown Portland, loop back to the Fred Meyer, and then back to campus. I'm not sure if the Pio schedule is staying the same for next year with that southeast loop, but the Office of Parking and Transportation will definitely update us when that schedule is probably finalized in early August. The Pio is free to use, and students can hop on or hop off as they would like.
If our son is going early, he's going around the 17th for sports, he'll still be able to do the orientation at least, right? The August 30th through the August or through September 2nd stuff,
So
right?
it will depend on what sport team your student is on. What sport team is your student on?
Soccer?
Soccer. I want to say that the men's team have home games.
Okay.
So if they're at home games, they're able to participate. I can't remember off the top of my head if that's the case for men's soccer.
Okay.
NSO will be hosting orientation on August 18th, that Friday, for all of the fall athletes to make sure that they're getting that programming.
Okay, good. Okay. Thanks.
Of course. I see another question about the residence halls and questions about that. So currently, residence halls on our campus are for all students. There are a couple of halls on the campus that are only for upper level students. That includes Holmes, Hartsfeld, the apartments, and specifically one building called Juniper within the Forest halls. Outside of that, everywhere on campus is first-year student eligible. With the asterisks of this coming fall, we are currently renovating 2 of our residence halls, Stewart and Odell. Stewart and Odell, because of the renovation timeline, will not be open for first years this coming year, but fear not, your second year at LC, you will be eligible to live in the newly renovated Stewart Odell. I'm sure Campus Living is working on updating some of the other resident halls, but this year it was Stewart and Odell's turn. Someone is asking about new student trips and if there will be some type of maybe like professors who assist in those new student trips and leading them. My understanding is new student trips are led by either current students, alum, or others who are connected to the campus during those new student trips. I don't believe professors are going off campus on those new student trips, but I do know that professors are connected heavily with living learning communities. That isn't related to a new student trip. Within all of the residence halls, we have different living learning communities, which is housing that involves programming related to a theme or a goal or something, a larger interest group that students participate in. So for example, we have our environmental action living learning communities. And I know that a couple professors are connected to that living learning community and will participate in programming and other activities that are facilitated within the halls. On that same note, students are able to apply for a living learning community. So if you know you're a student who is really interested in environmental action and eco engagement, I implore you to sign up for that living learning community. We have an outdoor pursuits living learning community, so people who are interested in getting outdoors. We have a visual and performing arts living learning community, a social change community for those who are interested in social issues and engaging in social justice. We have a global languages and cultures, so students who are interested in speaking different languages, connecting with different cultures. That's a really popular one. And I know I'm missing one or two other ones. There's an extensive list and they're all listed on the Campus Living website. I see another question here about residence halls. So for new students will live in doubles, triples, quads, and overflow housing spaces. New students are not single room eligible unless you have a housing accommodation for a single room. Any other questions? You're welcome to unmute and ask away.
I had a question. How do students know what to sign up for? Is it going to be pretty obvious, or do they definitely need to meet with this advisor, college advising center advisor, to figure that out?
That's a great question. So students typically register for 16 credits, which comes out to 4 classes. If your student is a first-year student, they'll definitely sign up for a first-year words or numbers class, which gives them 3 other classes to sign up for. Now, regardless of if they know what those 3 other classes are, they should definitely connect with their college advisor. But if they already have a great sense, that conversation will probably be a pretty easy, sounds like you know what you want to take. Sounds great, you should sign up for those classes, but it can be really helpful to connect with that college advisor who might have some more information about, hey, that class is going to be really popular. You're going to want to sign up for that immediately on your first day of registration and save those other 2 options for the second day of your course registration. But it's definitely up to the student to make that final decision on what courses they want to take.
Yeah, that was a question I had because I know I have a daughter in college and she sometimes has a really hard time getting classes. Do classes get filled up quickly, or how does that work at Lewis and Clark?
Yeah, so especially for all of these classes that are first-year student eligible, advising holds a certain number of seats in those classes aside for incoming students. It does truly depend on some of the classes and how quickly they're going to fill up. If your student is interested in taking ceramics, for example, ceramics is an extremely popular class, and they hold maybe 5 or 6 seats aside for first years. So those classes are going to get snatched up really quick. So you'd want to prioritize that as the class that you're signing up for first. If your student's more interested in like a poetry class or a philosophy class, that might not be as highly sought after. And so that would definitely be a good one for the second day of registration. Usually they tell you to prioritize based off of how popular the class is, as well as what you'll need, especially if you know you're going down a certain major pathway.
So to understand you, you don't sign up for all your classes at one time? You do it sort of staggered, is that right?
Yes, yeah. So over the summer, you'll preference your words and numbers course. So you'll already have one of the 4 signed up. On the first day of course registration on August 1st, you'll sign up for 1 class. And then on the second day of class registration on August 3rd, you'll sign up for the 2 remaining classes. So we do stagger it to try and give everyone an equal opportunity to get into one class that they want and then fill into the other class periods later. And during that second day of registration on August 3rd is also when students would be able to sign up for like a PE class or an additional single credit class, like a music class or something like that. Someone asked a question about who gets assigned to doubles versus quads. So some of that process will be based off of roommate groups. If you form a roommate group of 4, you're obviously going to get put into a quad, but there is a possibility that even if you form a roommate group with one other, you might get paired with another double and then placed into a quad space. Just kind of depends, and we do sorting within preferences, and also just do Campus Living does their best to meet everyone's preferences, but it cannot be guaranteed based off of the request for doubles and how many doubles we actually have available for incoming students.
How do the numbers compare this year as far as you said 600 students are coming? How does that compare with like other years as far as housing availability?
Yeah, that's a great question. This incoming class this year is not as large as other class years. We have seen more returning students request on-campus housing. So it's kind of up to Campus Living to balance the scales of how many beds are set aside for returning students versus first-year students. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have halls that are reserved just for returning residents, like Holmes, Hartsfeld, and the apartments. So those are all currently full. And then it's just a matter of trying to hold a certain number of doubles, quads, triples, and some of those overflow spaces for the first-year students. I don't have the numbers, unfortunately, of what that actual percentage breakdown comes out to.
Do you happen to know if all student athletes have obligations early enough to preclude them from new student trips?
I know for the fall athletes that might be a trickier issue because of the way that D3 practices align, or the number of practices that they need before the fall semester starts to host. So I would suggest if your student is a fall athlete to reach out to the coach to see if participating in an NST is possible. If your student is a spring athlete, then there should not be a conflict. Did that answer your question?
Do you happen to know what the requirements are for rowers?
Unfortunately, I am not sure. I am so sorry.
Okay, no problem. We'll reach out to the coach.
Yeah. Someone here asked a question, what is an overflow space? So an overflow space on campus is a converted room space. These are either spaces that used to hold 2 that will now hold 3 students, or other spaces that used to be lounge spaces that have been converted into residence hall rooms. These overflow spaces usually have bunked beds to accommodate an additional desk. They do come with a 20% housing discount. So we do see students opt into the overflow space because they are cheaper. If you have more questions about housing, I will direct you to the email that Campus Living will send out next week. That will include multiple different housing Q&A links to ask more questions about room types, housing applications, applying for housing, roommate groups, and stuff like that. Alrighty, folks. Any last minute questions before we wrap up? We're almost hitting our 4 p.m. wrap time. Alrighty. Well, thank you all so much for joining me here today on my first summer webinar of the year. There will be many more coming. And like I mentioned, keep your eyes peeled for Friday when the NSO checklist launches. And if you have any questions in the meantime, you're more than welcome to reach out to nso@lclark.edu with any questions. You're also welcome to email me directly if you would like as well. My email is just my name, francescaspan@lclark.edu. We work all summer. We don't get the summer break that students think that we get because they don't have classes. So we are definitely in office for phone calls, Zoom calls, emails, anything like that. Appreciate you joining us here today, and we'll make sure that this webinar gets posted within a week. Thank you all. I'll stick around if you have any other questions pop up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. Feel
Yeah,
better.
of course.
Thank you.